All right, let's talk about working with null values. So by default, TypeScript is very strict about using null and undefined values because, as you probably know, these values are a common source of bugs in our applications. So let's look at a real example. Let's define a function called greet that takes a name, which is a string. Now in this function, we just want to do a console.log and print name.to uppercase. Now, in vanilla JavaScript, we can call this function and accidentally give it null or undefined. That is totally valid JavaScript code. But when we run our program is going to crash because we cannot call this method on a null or an undefined object. So this is why null and undefined values are a common source of problems. And that's why, by default, the TypeScript compiler stops us from using null or undefined values. So here we have an error saying argument of type null is not assignable to parameter of type string. Let me show you where this comes from. So let's go to our tsconfig file. In the type checking section, we have a compiler option called strict null checks. Now this is enabled by default as part of the strict option. So if strict is set to true, strict null checks is also true. But we can overwrite it and turn off this feature. Now, back to index.ts, the error is gone. So this is why, by default, TypeScript is very strict about using null values. So technically, we should never use this option. We should never turn it off. So I'm going to revert this back. But what can we do in this function? What if we want to have the ability to use a null value? Perhaps if we don't have a name, we want to print just a generic message like hola, meaning hi in Spanish. So here we can say if name is truthy, meaning it has a value, then we're going to print name.to uppercase. Otherwise, if it's null or undefined, we're going to print hola. Okay? But we cannot pass a null value here. This is where we use a union type once again. So we annotate this parameter with string or null. Now we can pass a null value, but we cannot pass undefined because this is not a valid value for this parameter. So if you want to have the ability to pass undefined as well, again, we're going to use the union operator.